Good morning. Welcome to Daily Focus. and Sorry, I'm still a little stuffed up in my head and a little clouded in my voice. It's just kind of one of these colds. It doesn't really slow me down. It doesn't really affect my everyday, and but it's kind of a nuisance. It's almost a little bit like a sinus issue or maybe an allergy issue, even though I've never really had allergies. But I will admit it's kind of being a nuisance. so we're in Daniel chapter 2. And Daniel chapter 2 really opens up with showing how the power of the kings back in Bible times had, how they really had an intolerance for anything that would disrupt their life or affect them in some negative way. People were only to be optimistic. They were only to be positive. They were only to tell the king what he wanted to hear. And there was no tolerance of anything outside of that. We see that a little bit in, the dictators of our day, like a Putin and a Xi, and some of these guys that surround themselves with people who just basically tell them how wonderful they are, how wonderful their kingdom is, how wonderful the people are, and how much they love them, and thrive on their leadership. It's a bunch of baloney, really, but it's this ego trip that the kings, the dictators of the world, really require. They don't want anybody to tell them they're not doing a good job. Well, we can understand our flesh doesn't like that either. We don't like confrontation. We don't like to be confronted on something that we need to change or address. And we bristle under that. And we sometimes put up our defenses and all of that. Well, kings were in absolute power and they didn't have to tolerate it, and they didn't. And so in Daniel chapter 2, we find that Nebuchadnezzar dreams a dream that really bothers him, but he can't even remember what the dream is, so that he can't really even know what the interpretation is, and it really bothers him. So he calls all of his magicians, his astrologers, all of his wise men of the area, and he's like, I dreamed a dream. I don't remember what it is, and so I don't know what the interpretation is, and you need to tell me what I dreamed, and you need to tell me the interpretation. Well, as you go through the text, he says to them, if you can't, you're no good to me. I'm going to kill you, and your houses are going to become a garbage pit. And the astrologers reach back out and they're like, king, nobody on earth ever does this. Nobody expects people to be able to come up with this stuff. It's an absurd request. We have nothing to go on. There's no way we can do this, king. Well, the king is mad. He goes, then you don't do me any good. You're all going to be killed. And he makes a decree for all the wise men to be killed. And so the captain of the guard comes to Daniel and his three friends and says, well, you're all going to be headed out to be killed. And Daniel's like, for what? and the guard says, because you have to be able to tell the king what he dreamed and then what it means. And Daniel says, give us a little bit of time. And he goes to his friends. He says, let's pray and ask God to do a miracle to show mercy. And so in verse number 19, then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in a night vision. Then Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Daniel answered and said, blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. And he changeth the times and the seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise, and the knowledge to them that know understanding. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and the light dwelleth with him. I don't know about you, but I find great comfort in that. I don't know about tomorrow, but I know the guy who does. I don't know what the future holds for me and my family, but God does. And so though I might be in the dark, light it's as clear to him as anything. Things may happen in life I just don't understand. I may be in the dark, but I know who is light. I know who understands it perfectly. I know who is in control. And that's what or Daniel is saying here, is he is saying, you know what? I am so thankful that God, you have revealed this to me. And there would be no way for a human being to be able to come up with this. But in your grace, you have revealed it. And I am going to be able to answer the king. So therefore, the king went to Arioch, the king of the whatever they call that guy, the captain of the king's army. And he goes to him and he says, okay, I know the meaning, so don't destroy any of the wise men, but take me to the king. And so in verse 26, the king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, art thou able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen and the interpretation thereof? Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, the secret which the king hath demanded, cannot the wise men, astrologers, magicians, soothsayers show unto the king? There's no way. That was an absurd request. But, verse number 28, but there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets, and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Thy dream and the visions of thy head upon thy bed are these. Now, you're going to have to stay tuned and come back with me next Monday to actually talk about the interpretation of the dream. But for this morning, as we go into our weekend, I just want to challenge you with this thought. God knows everything clearly. He knows why, he knows what, he knows when. So as we're praying, as we're walking and serving the Lord, walking in the Spirit so that we don't fulfill our own lustful desires, our own selfish desires, as we're serving the Lord today, just remember this. He knows why. He knows what. He knows how. He knows everything about everything. And he is sovereign. He knows why we have the president we have. He knows why we have the governor we have. He knows why we have the cabinet we have. He knows why we have the representatives and senators we have. He knows why we have the judges we have. He knows why we have the storms of life. He knows why we have the destructive natural disasters that hit our world. He knows all. He knows why. He knows what. He knows when. And he's in control. And he is doing things that will help us better understand his person, understand his program, understand his promises, and the purpose that we have to participate in his program. There is a God in heaven, Nebuchadnezzar, who knows everything. He is light. He sees everything clearly. Man cannot, but God does. So let me leave you with this thought. No matter how confusing things might look, no matter how devastating things might become, there is a God in heaven who is light. He understands, and we can trust him. God bless you. I hope you have a great weekend. I look forward to seeing you again on Monday.